All right, so we're going to go over Chapter 6, Lesson 8 today. We are solving two-step inequalities. So we've done this lesson already before. I want to say this was Lesson 5. Lesson 4 and 5. So we're doing the exact same thing. The only difference is now we are dealing with an inequality instead. So we're going to talk about academic vocabulary and see if you guys remember how to do this. So our example here will be 3x plus 4. And you guys are going to tell me what this symbol means. What does this symbol mean here? Who can raise their hand and tell me what this means? V. Greater than or equal to 16. So using academic vocabulary, amp up group, you got exposed to this today. What do I need to do first in order to solve this? I'm going to see if somebody not in my amp up group can answer. Zorwar, you're not in my amp up group? What needs to be done first? There you go. Good job. We need to get rid of the constant. Who can tell me what is a constant? What is the definition of a constant? A whole number by itself. More specifically, what does it not have with it, ladies and gentlemen? Variable. So, in this case, our constant would be what? 4. And remember, you loop in the operation with it. So, more specifically, this is what? Positive 4. The 3 over here, since it's attached to my variable, what is the 3 known as? Oh, I didn't say ladies and gentlemen. The coefficient. So remember, we deal with the constant first. You guys may want to add this into your notes. We deal with the constant first, and then we deal with the coefficient, or if our variable is being divided, we deal with what's happening to the variable. Okay? So since this is positive 4, what do I need to do in order to get rid of it? Rowan, what would I need to do? I got the positive 4 here as my coefficient, or not my coefficient, as my constant. What do I need to do to get rid of that 4? It says plus 4. What's the opposite of addition? So I'm going to subtract 4. And remember, just like an equation, this acts like a mirror. So if I'm subtracting 4 from one side, ladies and gentlemen, you have to do it to the other. Now, this is where a lot of you guys lose points. You have to show your work, so you have to rewrite the inequality. Remember, the 4s get canceled out. So from left to right, ladies and gentlemen, what is my new inequality? From left to right, go.
3x is greater or equal to
12. Remember, I have to subtract the 4 from the 16. So my new inequality is written down as 3x is greater than or equal to 12. Now I can deal with the coefficient. Ladies and gentlemen, what's my inverse operation of multiplication? Division. I'm going to divide this side by, and I'm going to divide the other side by. Those cancel out. Now my solution, ladies and gentlemen, x 4. Okay. So that's solving two-step inequalities. Again, you move the constant first, and then you deal with whatever is happening to the variable. Now, I don't want to say it's a coefficient every time, because if your variable is being divided, that's not a coefficient. You just have to undo what's happening to the variable. Now, we're going to go on a side tangent, because this question also says to graph. So there are 4 steps, and you guys are going to need to get your pencils ready because a lot of us don't fully understand what the steps are. Question.
It's not really 2-step equations because the one we did in class was definitely not 2 steps. It was a lot more than 2 steps.
Yeah, that's with the distributive property because there are 2 different quantities that you need to move. So what is my first rule of graphing? There are 4 steps, and the first one is not necessarily a step. It's a rule. What is step number 1? Variable needs to be on the left. If your variable is not on the left, you are not doing it correctly. Devices should not be open right now. Back group, looking at you. Devices should not be open right now. So, step 1, again, is to make sure the variable is on the left. If the variable is not on the left, your graph is going to be wrong. So make sure you guys are adding this to your notes if you don't know how to graph. What is step 2? Somebody different, because you answered step 1. Zoror, what's step 2? So which way would the arrow point in this one? To the right. Remember, you look at the symbol and you just add the arrow portion and the symbol will be the top of the arrow. So my arrow is pointing to the right. So now I can draw the arrow. What is step 3? Is it a question or are you trying to answer my questions? No. Izzy, what would step number 3 be? Okay, so what type of dot am I using for this one? What is that known as? Closed dot. So why is it a closed dot? Who can raise your hand and tell me why it's a closed dot and not an open dot? Dominic. The or equal to symbol means that it is a closed dot, so it can equal that number. If there's no or equal to, we use what's called an open dot. Now, when you do this on your test, please make the dots big enough. Some of you guys do this, and then you're like, this is your open dot. That's your open dot, and then this is your closed dot, and it's really hard to determine. So make them bigger, please. Make them big enough to where I can determine if they're open or closed. So in this case, it's a closed dot, and then last step, there's one more step. So step 1 was make sure the variable's on the left. Step 2 is determine which way the arrow is pointing. Step 3, determine if we're using a closed or open dot. And step 4 would be what, Jaylene? Because I can't just leave it like this. This is not giving me enough information. There's one more thing missing. I'll give you a hint. It goes underneath the dot. So the number. So I'm going to draw 4. Now, this is what I saw in a lot of our quizzes. Let's say instead of this, it was this. It was -7. Okay? A lot of us did this and forgot to bring the negative symbol down. If you do that, you're wrong. Because this says that x is greater than 7, while this saying or equal to, and this is saying x is greater than or equal to -7. These are not the same. You have to add the symbol with it. So please make sure that you are bringing the whole number, whether it's a positive or a negative, you're bringing everything. And again, it's not just a whole number, because somebody last period said, I'm using whole as a different. I mean the whole thing. Last period said, oh, write the whole number underneath the thing, and they meant like not a partial. You can have something that looks like this, just so you guys know. Then you would write underneath the dot, ladies and gentlemen, 3/4. You would still do that. So just bring whatever number is on the other side of the inequality once you solve it, and make sure you bring the properties with it. If it's negative or positive, it needs to be with it. Brody.
Wait, so for a decimal, or
If it were a decimal,
a fraction, and you don't know how to write it as a fraction, and it doesn't state whether it's anything,
okay.
could you write it as a decimal? So say
Depending on the directions. Again, it depends on the directions. The directions don't say to graph it. You don't need to graph it. The directions say solve this, and they have a fraction, but it doesn't say anywhere in there that it needs to be solved as a fraction. You can solve it as a decimal. All right. So, yes.
on the quiz, was it like something like that where you had to put down a negative number?
Yep, and a bunch of you guys got it wrong because, well, one, it was a trick question. The variable was on the right side. So most of you guys pointed the arrow the wrong way. And then a lot of us didn't bring down the negative for whatever the answer was, and you left positive. I think it was -7. And yeah, that wasn't a good look. So you guys got that wrong. So, examples of graphing. Okay, without even looking. Step 1, ladies and gentlemen, go quickly, rapid fire. What's step 1? I said, ladies and gentlemen, what is step 1? Graphing. What's step 1? What's step 1? Okay, variable needs to be on the left. Variable's on the left, yes? Cool. Step 2, what are we doing?
What arrow?
Okay, which way is the arrow pointing, ladies and gentlemen? To the right. Step 3.
Is it
Okay, what is it? Open, because there's no or equal to sign. And last step, what is the number underneath the dot? 5. +5. And we're done. Now, let me give you guys a different example. Let's do... First step is what? Okay, so rewrite it. What does it need to be?
Y is greater or equal than 17. No.
Why? Why is it wrong?
Because you have to flip the whole thing, including the symbol.
So an easy way to determine this is look at what point is pointing to y. That's the less than, right? Y is less than or equal to 17. So the mouth needs to be pointing at the same number. The mouth is no longer pointing at 17, it's pointing at y. So this needs to be written this way. Okay, step 2 is what, ladies and gentlemen? Rapid fire. That was step 1. Step 2, ladies and gentlemen, you should all. Okay, what way is the arrow pointing, ladies and gentlemen? And step 3? Okay, dot, it should be a closed dot. And step 4? And the number is? Positive 17. And that's it. So remember, if you have the variable on the wrong side, you have to flip the whole thing. Easy rule is figure out which way the mouth is pointing and make sure the mouth is still pointing that way. Towards that number, I should say. So since the mouth was open to 17 in the original when it was written like this, the mouth should still be pointing to 17 when we rewrite it. We're just flipping the whole thing. Okay, back to inequalities. Let's do this example. 7 minus 2x is greater than 11. Now, we went over these steps. Step 1 would be what? What do I need to move first? Be what, ladies and gentlemen? Not the variable. What needs to be moved first? The constant. Which was the constant in this case? Ladies and gentlemen? Okay, more specific. Okay. There is no symbol in front of this, right? So automatically, if there's no symbol, we default to it being, ladies and gentlemen, positive. So since that's positive 7, what do I need to do to get rid of it? Subtract 7 from both sides. Now, be very aware of this. What is my new inequality from left to right, ladies and gentlemen? Go. No. Okay. Stop. You need to invoke the whole thing. So it is negative 2x is greater than 4. So 7 minus 11 is 4. So, with that being said, we're done there. I need to continue to solve for the variable. What do I need to do? What is happening to the variable, ladies and gentlemen? By? It's being multiplied by negative 2. So to undo that, I'm going to divide it by negative 2. Now, when I do that, that goes away. X will be greater than whatever 4 divided by negative 2 is, which should be, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, stop. This is where I lose some of you guys, and then some of you guys get this question wrong. It's a positive divided by a negative. My answer should be what, ladies and gentlemen? Negative. It's a positive divided by a negative. If it was 2 negatives, a negative divided by a negative, then it would be positive. But this is a positive, this is a negative. So my answer will be negative. Now ignore the symbol. What is 4 divided by 2, everybody? So my answer should be x is greater than negative 2. And if we were to graph this, x is already on the left side. Which way is my arrow pointing, ladies and gentlemen? This should be quick. To the right, open or close dot? Open dot, because there's no more equal to sign. And what number is going underneath the dot?
Negative 2.
And we're done.
I thought it changed, whether it's negative or positive, I thought it changed.
No, it does not change the direction. This will still be pointing the same way. The number matters. You need to put negative 2 under there. If you put positive 2 under there, you're wrong. It's negative 2. X is greater than negative 2. So it's any number bigger than negative 2. Cannot equal negative 2, because -2 is not greater than -2, hence the open dot. If it had the or equal to symbol, then that would be a closed dot, and I'd fill it in because it can equal -2 and any number greater than -2. And that's pretty much the whole lesson for two-step inequalities. This time, there is no distributive property. You have 12 questions, but we are not going to spend time doing any of the questions in class today. We're going to go over the test and the quiz, the two parts of the test. So we're going to stop the recording here.